Hi, and welcome to this short video introducing RoboMind. Now this is only a 10-minute or so introduction, so I'm not going to be able to cover everything you can do with RoboMind, but hopefully I'll give you some good idea of what it covers and what a great tool it is for children transitioning to text-based programming. Now I'm sure there's going to be loads of things I miss out, but fingers crossed I will cover everything I need to in order to give you a good idea and to get started yourself in Key Stage 3. Now, we looked briefly at RoboMind in one of our previous Tenderfoot session introductions, which was part of the first unit, laying firm foundations, transitioning to text. In that introduction, I looked more at the session itself rather than the environment of RoboMind, so I thought we'll spend a little bit of time here looking at the application itself, which I believe is a really good application to use in the classroom for lots of different reasons. So let's get started. One thing straight off that I believe is really good about RoboMind is it's a robot simulator, and this gives an excellent motivational context for children to begin to learn programming, or programming with text-based languages to be more specific. In the Tenderfoot sessions, we speak often about the cognitive load that children face when transitioning to text-based programs, and having a great motivational context is a great way to absorb the children to overcome some of these barriers and stay or engaged with the process. So let's open the program. Here's the program. RoboMind is a small robot simulation. It can move forward, back, left and right. It also has a facility to see, to pick up things and paint lines and so much more. It's great for undertaking problem-solving activities with children while also getting them to transition to code. What I do first of all is what I would do with children in the classroom, and that is explore the environment itself. To get to show them how it relates to other software or IDEs they might have seen, how it's different, and let them get used to navigating it, because that in itself will let us answer questions of the class, but also gives them a sense when they get their hands on the program and get to work with it individually or in pairs of just where everything is, and stops those questions that might come up that maybe shouldn't do if we spend this little bit of time. For children to discover on their own, to analyse, to question, to find. There's so many different ways in which we can introduce a software, but that introduction itself is really important. So with students at the computer, we can begin to explain the environment it operates in and how it moves from tile to tile in its world, and the map. There's the map there, the overview of the map. There's the environment with the map in place. We'll look at Robot itself in a second. Also here is the code editor. And down here is a run environment, which we can press start to run the script we've created and to execute the script. Now, as well as these three main environments that the children will be using, there's also the toolbar menu at the top, which relates very much to the menus at the top as well, the drop-down menus. Now here we have create a new script, we have open a script, and there's some scripts we'll look at later on. There's save, open a new environment, which basically open a new map, which we'll look at later on. This is a great feature which I'll come on to soon. It's a remote control, which is many ways you can use as the first stage of introducing pupils to controlling Robo and looking at how that translates into script. There's also undo, redo, there's cut and paste, there's a zoom, and there's replace text in source code, and also create maps in a browser-based editor. Now, as I said, all these features are still available in the top menu, the drop-down menu, as well as other features, which we'll look at as we go through, although you're free to explore them as you want when you get your hands on the program and have a little look through yourself. If we're going to start, let's look at controlling the world, because I can drag and click the map around here, the environment, but you can't really see Robo. But if I decide to zoom in, which we can do from the view menu here, just zoom in like so, and then we can move around, we can begin to see Robo inside his map. We can zoom in further, and again we can zoom out. As you notice, there's keyboard shortcuts for that as well. I'm using a Mac today, but it'd be control with the Windows. There we go, we can zoom in and out quite easily using the keyboard. So we can find where Robo is on the map, and we can also see where he is via the little legend at the top, the key to the map itself. So looking at this first of all, yeah, it's easy enough. We can look at the map, we can zoom in and out, but these environments, the run environment and the code editor will look quite frightening, I'd imagine, to people new to text-based coding, and especially for children in the classroom. And what makes RoboMind such a good environment to explore the transition is that it offers us another simple tool to help us control him, but also help us to begin to understand how his movement translates to text-based code. And it's a remote control. It's there in the toolbar, but also in the run menu at the bottom. Let's have a quick look at the remote control. You can go forwards, turn right, forward again. You can turn left, forwards, backwards. You can also grab things. There we go. Pick up and put down. You can also paint black. So if we go forward now, you paint a black line. And we can paint a white line. And this in itself opens up so many opportunities for children to undertake challenges, design challenges themselves, challenges that their friends can face. There are just so many different avenues from which just the remote control can be used with the children to begin to appreciate robotics. And as you see at the bottom, it's giving me error messages when I've made mistakes on the control. Like when I tried to pick it up, there was nothing there to grab. There's no beacon to get. Or I can't drive through the wall. And that's quite nice for children to look at the errors they've created as they go through. So we'll just clear it again. In the middle there, the target symbol clears the world. So it goes back to the beginning. Now we could start by giving the pupils a simple challenge of, say, follow the white line to the end. And they can use a remote control to do this. So I want to turn right. And as I press forward, it only goes forward one tile at a time. And as you see, it's generating code at the bottom. And that's really nice because it gives children that translation between the movements they do on the remote control and the text being created, the code being created to correspond with that control. So we go forward again. I will do the challenge quickly. This is where I've got to remember my left and right, which is I'm notorious for forgetting. There we go. And all the time, it's generating the code to match what I'm telling it to do via the remote control. And again, we can shift the map there, or I could make the map bigger by making the run time smaller, which makes it easier. Again, turn left, forward, forward. So we carry on all the time. It's generating the code, and quite a lot of it, to be honest. And forward again. Oops. Let's have a look. Forward one more space. And again, if I go forward another one, it's going to generate an error message. I cannot drive through the wall. What's nice about this though is as the code's being generated at the bottom, the children can then begin to look and analyse, and we can begin to think about the code it's generated. So let's just copy and paste. Just by selecting all of the code generated, I can copy, which I'll do Control C, and I can put it into the text editor on the top left hand side, Control V, and there's all my text which caused RoboMind to complete the challenge. So if I go to the top and I press run at the bottom in the run environment, let's run this again. What's so nice about RoboMind in one way is that it instantly shows you what you've done. There's a quick turnaround between programming and executing and seeing the results. There we go. So there's no error message there. What's also nice is that pupils can then save their code. There we go, save. And I will save it in my RoboMind. I'll put a new My Projects. Create. And I'm going to save it as line following. This is great because it enables the students to work a bit deeper, and if it's maybe a harder challenge than this, and they don't get to complete it in one lesson, then go back, find their file, and continue another lesson. So if I close, I'll go to new, and then go back, I can find my line following program, open it, and there we go again. So we've looked at how we can use a remote control to move it, set a simple challenge, which was very simple. There's loads more, as I'm going to show you later on, that you can set yourself. But now we can begin to interrogate and look at the code, and effectively the first thing we'll look at is that code efficient? Do we need those many text commands to get Robo to complete that task? Now while we were working with a remote control, we had to, because it's the only way to move forward one step at a time. But now that we're looking at the code itself, we have different options. For instance, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 forwards. That'd be much easier if we deleted that and put 9 into the forward bracket. Again, this syntax is shown there. If we get it wrong, say we delete that by mistake and we go to run, error on line 27, no closing bracket found for the arguments of forward. Again, because it's built for education, it's really good at giving you error specific messages. And it's telling you basically if I need to put that in, and then it will run. There we go. So we've already deleted 8 lines of code and made it the same thing happen but more efficiently, and we can continue that process. And there we've gone down from 30 lines of code down to 12, so it's much more efficient. And if we run the code again, it's obviously going to do the same thing. And as you see, there's an arrow there telling us what line of code it is on as it executes it. You know, and that simple challenge in itself, we've done quite a lot. We've looked at how the remote control can move Robo, how that's changed into text commands, so it generates as remote control moves, and how then we can copy and paste it into the code editor and then begin to look at code efficiency by looking at the commands and how we can shrink them. So we know that we can go forward any number of steps rather than just one at a time. In fact, in this map alone, there are probably lots of different challenges we can construct in which we can get children to learn about different elements of code, rather than just to follow the line one we have just completed. I'll leave those up to you. But as I've said, I've only just scratched the surface of what you can do within RoboMind in this short introduction, and really have just looked at the relationship between how the code can be created by remote control and how the written commands that are generated by this can then be used to help pupils look at the code generated and modify it in some way. In this case, looking at how we can then work with them to make the code more efficient and work within the code editor to do this. As I've mentioned, there is so much more that can be done, which have made this video hours long rather than minutes, but unfortunately I haven't got the time other than to give a short introduction to get you started. As you would have noticed, in the example I looked at, the code was made of just simple commands, and this is just the very beginning. As you can see from the drop down menu, there is an insert menu, and inside here there are many other commands that we can call. Some of these are to do with the different actions that RoboMind can undertake, such as its movement and awareness, which is labelled as C in the menu. However, it also goes on to have menu commands for loops, conditions and procedures, which open up a far greater level of complex coding that can be achieved with pupils in this environment. Some examples of just what can be achieved can be seen in the different scripts that come with the application and can be opened within it. I'll show a few now. Here we can see scripts that deal with each of these constructs and give a number of ways to help pupils learn them and their power within the RoboMind environment. At the same time, as teachers, we are also able to construct challenges ourselves that are suitable for our pupils at any level and then save this to our scripts or any place you want. These can then be accessed by pupils to create a specific learning challenge for them at the level we know they are working at. As such, we can customise RoboMind to suit the specific learning challenges we want our pupils to face. Another element that adds more power and customisation is the ability to change maps within RoboMind. We can find this in the File menu, Open Map command. Here we get access to lots of different maps, from where we can create different challenges for our pupils to undertake. There is also a simple map editor, which allows us or our pupils to modify maps or create new ones, from which we can create challenges specifically for our learning environment. In fact, the whole of RoboMind is very flexible and, as we can see, built to help that transition to text. Again, I know this has only been a very quick overview and, if like me, I'm sure you would probably like to find out more. Firstly, I'm sorry I could not make this a 3-hour video it probably deserves to be, but if you do want to find out more, and more about all of the great extended things you can do within RoboMind, I would definitely suggest taking a look at Tenderfoot Unit 1, Session 3, as well as the different resources that come with it. And also to have a look on the web to find out some of the great learning opportunities people are creating with RoboMind as I speak.